What's going on, everybody? This is another episode of All Things Sports. I'm your host, Kalani Lua. Thank you guys for tuning in. This episode, we're going to discuss the Russell Westbrook incident that took place in Utah last night that unfortunately resulted in some sensitive topics, so to speak, to bring up. A fan apparently in Utah said to the effect this to Russell Westbrook when Russ went to the sidelines. Get back on your knees like you used to be, is what Westbrook is saying happened. The fan themselves is saying, no, actually, I said, hey, put some ice on your knees, bro. He said, this is heat. He like, whatever, you're going to need it. Those two really don't sound, you put ice on your knees, bro. Get on your knees like you used to. The only thing in there that sounds close to each other is knees, okay? It doesn't rhyme. It doesn't sound similar. So it's tough to say, okay, well, I can see the confusion there. It's tough. Westbrook then goes on a tangent saying, hey, man, I'll F you up, this and that. Even to the man's wife that was with him. And it's brought up this conversation now where we're asking, what is crossing the line for fans and athletes? The Utah Jazz have suspended, or banned, rather, that fan from their arena, which is good on them. This is also a fan who, through his social media timeline, has actually said some pretty racial things towards Russell Westbrook. So there at least is history there for that to say, okay, well, Westbrook didn't know about this beforehand, but in looking at it, doesn't look good whatsoever. And, this guy, apparently he's the cousin of former Pittsburgh Steelers defensive lineman Brett Kershaw. He's of the Mormon church, and he's a former highway patrol officer. Now he sells cars at a Toyota center maybe, or another car dealership, whatever the case may be, right? But you give the fact that, okay, this is in Utah, and several former athletes have said Utah is one of the worst places to play as far as racial tension between the athletes and the fans. Now, Utah, we know, is highly populated, has a high Caucasian population, and we know the NBA has a high African American population. And sometimes when those two mix, sometimes things can be said in the heat of the moment, trash talking, that crosses the line. Boston is routinely known as one of the most racist cities in all of America as far as big major cities. We got the South and all that. But as far, especially for sports, Utah seems to kind of jump the line and say, no, we know how to do it here too. And sometimes, look, some things can be said that are meant to be racial, but are taken that way, especially given the history of so many things that have been used to depict black people. It really does say, well, man, what can I say? Case in point, when Floyd Mayweather took on Conor McGregor a couple years ago in a boxing match, Conor McGregor, being from Ireland, said, dance for me, boy, dance for me. This was when Floyd Mayweather was strutting around on stage and moving and throwing money in there. And, Conor was like, dance for me, boy. Now, in his mind, he didn't view that as being racial, but we all know how, calling a black man boy in this country and dance for me, boy, yes, sir, there, boss. We know the history of that here in this country. And the backlash to Conor, he was kind of caught off guard by like, hey, wait a minute, man. I'm not being racist. That wasn't, just didn't realize that the history behind that statement is much deeper than just pure trash talking. And sometimes you get that in the sports world. And for Russell Westbrook, I condone him because, let's be honest, for better or for worse, this is one of the athletes that has to do with a whole lot of personal battles with the fans. In Philadelphia, he had the old fan who was standing up giving him the middle finger. In Denver, he had a fan run on the court and jump in his face. I would just like to say, Russ is better than quite a few other NBA players, because had that same fan ran on the court and got in the face of, Ron Artest, a.k.a. Meta World Peace, we know what would have happened. Steven Jackson, we know what would have happened. Dennis Rodman, Rasheed Wallace, we know what would have happened. Westbrook, though, keeps his composure and just tries to hold it together. And sometimes that could just be too much to do. I get it. These are athletes. It's a sporting event. Booing, cheering, trash talking, heckling. I get it. That is going to be part of the game. It is what it is. When people are at the free throw line, you got everyone behind the backboard. Woo! Banners and all that dance. I get all that. Okay, cool. That's part of the game. What can't be part of any game is when it gets to the point of heckling racial or sexual things that that cross the line. You know what I mean? You gotta also realize, and this is where athletes don't get the sympathies, but like Raymond Felton said, we're human beings. At the end of the day, we're just humans playing a basketball game. Okay, you take away LeBron James, you take a foot off of him, he's a 5'8" guy who probably isn't in the NBA working whatever type of job. I mean, that is what it is. You know, we are just gifted, or we as far as athletes, we are just gifted in an athletic event that allows us to make this type of money, entertain you for the purposes, but we're still human beings at the end of the day. I got to go home, I got to be a father, I got to be a husband, I got to be a brother, an uncle, whatever the case may be, okay? And before I was an athlete, I was a man first. And you also have to respect that in itself. And it's very unfortunate that a lot of fans choose to cross that line willingly, thinking, well, I pay your salary. Not really. Like, you do, but it's almost like saying, hey, I put a penny in the ocean. I'm contributing to making a wish for all the bad things in this world to go away. I'm contributing. Nah, that's not really how it's going to work, my man. And that's really not how it works for these so-called fans who think I bought a ticket so I can say whatever I want to say. It's to the point where, yes, we are asking the question, well, why can't athletes just have tougher skin and just deal with it? Athletes before had to deal with heckling. Here's why. Here's my take on that. I truly believe that because of the generational gap between the athletes we have now and the athletes of yesterday, these athletes today were not raised to turn the other cheek. They were not raised to have thick skin and just let things go. And what I mean is not necessarily be sensitive, be snowflakes, these damn millennials, not that at all. But if you think about this, if you grew up or if you had parents who either had you or were coming up during the 50s, 60s, 70s, they grew up in a time where they were following leaders such as Dr. Martin Luther King. Say what you will about the man, but we all know nonviolence, turn the other cheek, love will overconquer hate, and all that he stood for. And that type of message trickles down to the people to where they feel like, okay, I am going to sit at this lunch counter. You are going to spit on me. You are going to put cigarettes out on the back of my neck. You are going to throw things at me, but I'm still going to sit here and not respond to you in a violent way because love overcomes hate. I am going to sit on this bus in the front where I want to be without moving, etc., etc. That type of mindset then gets put into your children on how to go out into the world and be, hey, you don't let no one hold you back. You go out there and you hold your head up high with pride and you be strong. Words can't hurt you. Now we flip it to where now if you're having kids or if you are growing, your parents are being raised in the mid to late 70s, 80s, and 90s. Now they're growing up where it's a total culture shock and shift and change. That is thanks to cable television, news outlets, and just more information being put out to you. And then we saw all the heinous acts that happened towards our own people and the assassinations of people who were trying to do good. And we're like, you know what? Bump all that. And yes, you could say, thanks to music, the rise of hip hop and rap music, movies, you can say all that kind of now starts to shape the narrative of, bump that, man. You're not going to disrespect me. You're not going to talk about my moms. You're not going to talk about my family, my children. You're not going to say certain things to me. I remember growing up, I'm sure as many of you do as well if you're of a certain age, growing up, you could smack talk about any and everything you can. But you got to a certain age where those mama jokes weren't funny anymore. You got to a certain age where, hey man, don't talk about my sisters or don't talk about, my younger brother or whatever the case may be. But when you were of a certain age, you had no care in the world. Your mama's so fat, she can sit on a penny and pop a book out the president's nose. Or your mama's so dumb, she tripped over a cordless phone. Whatever the case may be, I'm sure you all got plenty of good mama jokes out there. In fact, if you got some good ones, why don't you drop them in the comment box and we can see who got some of the pretty creative mama jokes. But you get to a certain point where those aren't funny anymore. That's crossing the line. And with that generation, they're growing up saying, nah, man, you're not going to disrespect me. You're not going to disrespect me or my family or what I do. And they're not standing for it. Does that make them sensitive? Does that make them wrong? I don't necessarily think so. It's two different perspectives on how to deal with something. It's just a matter of what do you agree with? Do you think it's better to just ignore it? Okay, there's benefits in that as well. Or to stand up against it. Well, there's also benefits in that as well. If you look at the fact that now the Utah Jazz have banned this fan, does that now send a clear message to other fans to say, don't be like that? Do not, you are representing, when you come here as a fan, you are not only here for your own entertainment, you're representing us as an organization, us as a fan base, us as a city. And again, think about it. If you look at Boston and you look at some of the horrific stories of their fan base, or Philadelphia and how crazy they are, if you have never been to those cities, you already have a picture in your mind painted of how that city and the people there are already. Same thing here now with Utah, where you're like, man, I don't know. You even heard Matt Barnes say, yeah, I've been telling people for years, Utah is the most racist city we've ever go to in the NBA on the road. It's horrible. And you get that and you're like, well, shoot, man, it is a lot of white people there. You get all these issues coming up now and coming up between the fans and the athletes, and I ain't hearing all these stories. And you're like, you know what? Yeah, Utah's just a big racist city or state. Salt Lake City, racist city. When it's probably not the case. Unfortunately, the few ruin it for the many. And that's why when those few do pop up, it probably is a good idea to go ahead and take them out, as far as not allowing them to come back to your stadium, not allowing them to attend your games, not allowing them to ruin the experience for not only the athletes coming in and your own players, but also for the fans around you. How many of us have been to a sporting event where we've had people around us who are just had a little bit too much to drink, or just being outlandish with their remarks, loud, disrespectful, whatever the case may be, and it kind of ruins the experience for you. You know, being a Raiders fan, I've been to many of Raiders games where somebody just had a little bit too much to drink, and all the shouting and yelling they're doing, almost to the point where it's like, dude, just stop it. Just stop it. Like, you're not even making sense anymore. And then someone else says something and they get into a fight. Is that really fun? Like, for some people, I'm sure it is, but is that enjoyable? Is that something you want to be a part of? Is that, hey, man, look, I'm next to two drunk guys fighting each other. Right? I mean, sure, okay, if you got a social media account and you want to get your followers up, cool. But it's not fun. And we all know that these sporting events are supposed to be family-oriented. So you want to make the experience fan-friendly and family-friendly. So, but having these type of fans there, definitely not going to be the case. So I think Russ was right in standing up to the fan. I think the Utah Jazz did a great thing in standing up to the fan in banning him. And I think the NBA standing by their players in situations like this. Even though they find Russell Westbrook, it does send a message. You cannot be like this. Be a professional. Let it go. But we will handle it for you, as opposed to you blowing up in the heat of the moment, heat of the battle, adrenaline's high. We get it. But you still cannot cross that line. So kudos on both sides. And unfortunately, we still have people like that in this world. Hopefully, as time goes on, love actually does conquer hate, and that thing can be eradicated, and we don't have to worry about that no more. Hey, if you want to talk trash. Why it gotta be racial? Why? Why has it gotta be racial? At the end of the day, we're all human beings. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of All Things Sports. I'm your host, Klein Lua. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And again, if you have any questions, comments, or remarks, or any mama jokes, go ahead and drop them in the comment box, and I'll be sure to respond. Until next video, peace.